So, Coach, a great start to conference play, a win over rival Hampton-Sydney. After the first victory of the year, I really complimented the defensive game plan, but it seemed like in this game, offense had a great start. Came out, moved down the field, a lot of short gains. Quarterback Jay Scroggins had 15 completions and 2 touchdowns, only ended up with a little over 100 yards. So it was a lot of little gains and, of course, some big rushes to sort of to get you guys up the field quickly, but it seemed like the offense really had a plan to move the ball.
Well, I think, and give credit to our defense too. I think when the game mattered, I'm not saying mattered, but it got a little scrambled there at the end. But I think they had a good plan. They denied Hampton-Sydney the big play. I think they had one explosion play over 20 yards and was the result of a busted assignment. And so I think they did their part too. They weren't going to let him rush the football. We weren't going to give him the explosion play and try to make him earn it. I do think, give credit to our kickoff team. Our kickoff return team, in every game, we've had returns of over 50 yards that have started the ball on their side of the 50. That's how the game started. I can't remember the last time our offense scored on the first 3 drives, which we did. And momentum in this game means something. I think, Malley has really kind of established himself as a running back that people have to account for, and when they account for a running back, they got to pull extra people inside. That leaves you a little bit one-on-one on the outside, and I thought Jay did a nice job. As you mentioned, the short game, which is kind of what we call our RPO options, they're run-pass options that come off the same play, and it allowed us to dink and dunk them. Those are extension of our running game, and you find a guy like Dakota Schrader that has 5 catches for 30 yards. Well, if somebody was averaging 6 yards a carry as a running back, you'd say that's pretty good. Well, with what we're doing offensively, that's pretty good for a wide receiver sometimes too.
And I think another aspect that's really helped the running game this year, and maybe it was an issue at times last year, but the offensive line has been very good. You've got Jack Howerton has joined after starting games the last 2 years for a Division I school and now starting here at guard. I think that's made a huge difference, but it seems like the offensive line is really opening up some big holes.
Well, I think you don't run the football without offensive line production, and we've started the same guys in all 4 games. That means something. They start working cohesively as a unit, and I think our ability to run the football, it starts with the offensive line. And I think those where we have a little bit of size, but you also have a guy like Cam Bailey that he's one of those guys that's waited 4 years to play. He's a senior and getting his first significant playing time, but right now you've got a mature kid that is assigned high value to that, and you're very accurate there. You never get the rush. You don't get 300 yards rushing in a game in a vacuum. And I think the explosion plays help. I think the way our game, we had 2 big plays where we had them all blocked, went one-on-one with the safety, and Hampton-Sydney safety versus Malley Barker was a mismatch in our favor.
And that brings us to this week's opponent, because the last few years Randolph-Macon's been very good on both lines. They did come in here and beat Bridgewater last year 35-14, I believe, and that seemed like a game where even to the casual observer that they got a lot of push on both lines and sort of overpowered us there. But maybe this year, I think on both lines, the team may be more ready to confront that.
It's a tough matchup for us. I give Randolph-Macon credit. I think Pedro's done a nice job with the team that he's gone 4-6 with the last 2 years, but he's played kids, and now you're looking at a place that has 4 seniors in the offensive line. I think they start 8 seniors on the defensive side of the ball, and they're a mature football team that has played, and nobody's surprised that they were doing well. I thought when they were picked low this year, and I thought that I didn't pick them that low in the poll because I knew the maturity that they had coming back. I think for our defense in particular, it's a complete change. It's a switch. They're kind of a Wisconsin. They're an Arkansas. People that watch ESPN football, they're not real fancy. I mean, they're going to pound you. They gave it to their sophomore tailback in one game 42 times. And they're also a team that they're not a tempo team. You're going to get limited possessions. And as I go back to last year's game, which they want to play grind and pound. That's how they're going to play on the offensive side of the ball. If you'll remember, in a 14-7 game, they faked a punt in the second quarter that allowed them to go down and go up 21-7. And at that time, I remember right there trying to count possessions in this game, and it's sort of like a tennis match. They broke serve, and they're not a team that you want to be 2 scores behind. And by the same token, our challenge offensively will be try to put some pressure on them and try to get them out of an offensive mode that they're very comfortable with.
Now, I don't know if you've thought at all about, but the weather forecast doesn't look great. Possible hurricane hitting the coast. It's definitely going to rain. The wind forecast isn't too bad yet, but Randolph-Macon is a team, they're good in the trenches, they run the ball a lot. Maybe they're well equipped to play in bad weather, although the game is on turf. Does that affect this week at all, you think?
Well, I think you can analyze it. I'm not a weather person. I've looked at it. A week ago, Randolph-Macon changed the Thursday game to avoid weather when it didn't rain to play on Friday night in the rain. So obviously they've had some experience in that. And I think, you try to analyze it. If you say we're a speed team and they're a grind and pound, the weather favors the grind and pound. But whatever the conditions are, there's not going to be an asterisk on the scoreboard, and we're going to have to show up and play and adjust. And I think if it gets into one of those sloppy situations, even on turf, ball security is going to be very important. And we're just going to have to adjust. That's how football is, and I think our kids are looking forward to the challenge. And as I told them last week ago, we were 60 minutes away from being in first. Now we're 60 minutes away from staying in first or being one game behind. Neither of those situations, 5 games into the season, is going to determine the final outcome in the ODAC, but I know which one I'd rather have.
Well, as always, check BridgewaterEagles.com for video, audio, and live stats links, and certainly in a conference that has been this wide open, a chance to go 2-0 is huge.
I think it's huge, and I think to go on the road and play a team that's one thing, sometimes the easiest teams to prepare for are the toughest to beat. And I think really in Randolph-Macon, you know what they're going to do offensively. You really kind of know where they're going to line up defensively. And right now they're just doing it with good, experienced people that are playing very hard. And it'll be a big challenge for us. They're undefeated for a reason.